Breaking news, stimulating talk is what we do. KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. A 54-year-old North Logan man charged with lewdness inside a local store is going to trial. William Joyner was originally arrested in October 2020 after the alleged victim reported the suspect allegedly exposed himself to her. According to court staff, Joyner was in First District Court Monday morning. He was previously charged with one count of lewdness, a third-degree felony. Public defender Shannon Demler requested the two-day jury trial, explaining that he and prosecutors had been unable to negotiate a plea deal. Judge Brandon Maynard scheduled the trial to begin December 16th. He ordered Joyner to appear again in court for a final pretrial conference on November 29th. Prosecutors claim Logan City police officers were called to a retail grocery store in October 2020 after a 12-year-old girl claimed that Joyner allegedly exposed himself in the aisle of the store. The girl reported the incident to her mother, who notified store employees. Joyner has pleaded not guilty to the charge. He was convicted of similar lewd acts in 2014 and 2000. He is currently out of jail after posting $5,000 bail. He could face up to 5 years in prison if convicted. KVNU News Time is 5:06. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear, areas of smoke this evening, then patchy smoke after midnight, low around 50. Patchy smoke Wednesday morning, otherwise sunny, around 90 for the high. It's been to 87. It's 86 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Maple Spring Senior Living. Transitional rehab is perfect for an aging loved one recovering from an illness or surgery. They offer speech, occupational, and physical therapy, pain management, help with medicine, and 24-hour access to care. Learn more at maplespringsnorthlogan.com.
Oh, we live in a great area. Are you just back from a camping trip? Don't take your sleeping bags to the dry cleaner. Come to Mount Logan Laundry. For just a few quarters, our 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers will have those bags clean for your next trip. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
KVNU News Time is 5:07. A man who planned to spend the night on his boat in Strawberry Reservoir was found dead in the water beneath the boat. Wasatch County Sheriff's Office said a 44-year-old Murray man was expected to return from a night on the water at 9 a.m. Monday. At noon, his family called 911 to report that he was overdue, and rescue and law enforcement officials responded, locating his boat anchored and unattended approximately 100 yards from shore near Soldier Creek. The sheriff's office said rescue crews located the man in the water about 50 feet beneath his boat. They expressed sadness for the man's family. The state medical examiner's office will determine how the man died. His identity has not been made public. And some local Republican Party officials in Wyoming have announced that they will no longer recognize Liz Cheney as a party member because of her vote to impeach Donald Trump. Republicans in Park and Carbon counties in Wyoming recently voted unanimously in favor of the move, telling Cheney in letters, "You're fired." The Casper Star-Tribune reports the county votes are largely symbolic. The Republican Party can withdraw or withhold support from GOP office holders and candidates, but cannot oust anybody from the party. Cheney describes her impeachment vote and criticism of Trump as putting principle and the U.S. Constitution above the former president. KVNU News Time is 5:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, just wait until you hire an amateur.
Why the heck is the roof leaking? Larry, you said you got it fixed.
I thought it was fixed, Donna. Everything was fine until it started raining.
Larry, that's the point of fixing the roof, is so we can actually live here when it's stormy outside.
This is David with Roof Rescue. Our experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
If you're like most local residents, you have a huge influx of creepy crawlers invading your home. Right now, the nasty elm seed beetle is all over northern Utah. But there is a solution. Call Logan Extermination today for a full exterior spray. Their full exterior spray includes foundations and eaves and will kill those nasty spiders, wasps, box elder bugs, and the new nuisance elm seed beetles. And best of all, prices start at only $85. Call Logan Extermination today for details. 752-8450. Attention homeowners! You may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation has been poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum Piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated.
Feels like Tuesday. Tuesday has no feel.
What could go wrong was the last song played on that.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. It is hour 2 of today's show, Tuesday, August 10th. Thank you for tuning in. This hour is pre-recorded, not live, and the reason for that is something you should all be excited about. It is time, again, for the direct link with Utah Governor Spencer Cox. If you were listening back in June, we had an opportunity to host this here in our own studios with myself as moderator and callers from around the state providing the content and questions. This is a completely unscripted hour with Utah Governor Spencer Cox, very similar to the governor's monthly news conference, but far more interesting, to be honest with you, because the questions are coming from around the state, not just the Salt Lake County area, which is the case with the monthly news conference usually. This is an opportunity for rural Utah to really weigh in, and boy, did they back in June, hoping for the same thing tonight. So we've recorded this hour. We'll be revisiting some of our big interviews over the last several weeks, including with mayoral candidates. More on that in just a bit, with this being primary day in that Logan mayoral primary taking place between 3 candidates there, whittling them down to 2. Deadline for mailing your ballot has passed, but you can still drop your ballots off up until 8 p.m. at the drop box outside City Hall, or if it is still within working hours, which at this point you've got minutes, you can take them inside. But there's a drop box, and up until 8 p.m. that drop box will be collecting ballots there for this mayoral primary. Again, do not mail your ballots today. It is one day too late to do that. Drop them off in person if you'd like to make sure your voice is heard in this mayoral primary in Logan City. We'll be speaking with candidates who survived the primary coming up in the following weeks. The general election will get underway. That is an opportunity for you as well. But if you're still sitting there now, you've got a ballot to fill out, you plan to drop it off by 8 p.m. tonight, and you're unsure what to do, we did have a chance to speak with all 3 candidates for mayor in Logan City. Incumbent Mayor Holly Daines, one of our guests recently. We also spoke with challengers Dee Jones and Lowell Huber. They are both, all 3 interviews available via our podcast, which you can subscribe to via the Podcastics service. You can also listen directly online in the on-demand section at kvnutalk.com. Those interviews are available. I've also linked to all 3 on our Facebook page if you'd like to check them out before 8 p.m. tonight. So, again, we've recorded this hour of radio to free up the studio for setup purposes. Right now, as you're listening, teams from the Utah Broadcasters Association and our good friends at KVEL here, they will be hosting and moderating tonight, our friends at KVEL. Again, our turn was in June. Every other month this happens, and it rotates around the state with a rural station moderating and bringing the focus of the conversation to begin with, at least, and then the phone lines open up. So a quick note for listeners here in Cache Valley and throughout the state, for those who have maybe tuned in a little bit early, this will be broadcast courtesy of the Utah Broadcast Association, who have built a partnership working with us, working with our friends at KVEL, working with some stations in southern Utah. This is broadcast statewide, so the calls come from statewide. Interests range from rural issues in southern Utah, rural issues in northern Utah, the issues that maybe are germane and prominent right now in, say, Rich County, very different than what's going on in Carbon County. But it's an opportunity for everyone to get their questions in, and the way to do that is this phone number. It's not our studio line, so 6 to 7 p.m. tonight, direct link with Utah Governor Spencer Cox will be broadcasting here on KVNU and in other areas throughout the state. And the studio line will get you through to us, but not through to the Direct Link program. So 6 to 7 p.m. here on KVNU tonight. If you'd like to ask a question of Utah Governor Spencer Cox, you would want to dial 855-399-6800. And again, that number, 6 to 7 p.m. tonight here on KVNU for the Direct Link event with Utah Governor Spencer Cox. To get your calls in, you would dial 855-399-6800. 855-399-6800. And again, they'll be throwing that number out during the program as well as it begins roughly about 6:05 this evening, just after we wrap up here. So I mentioned the primary election that's taking place. That's definitely top of the list for everyone. If you haven't mailed your ballot yet, you need to get on that. 8 p.m. tonight is the deadline for dropping it off at the drop box outside Logan City Hall. And if you plan to vote in this election, do not mail your ballot. It is one day too late for that. So another item of interest today, we talked about this yesterday on the show, and man, am I bad at crystal ball reading when it comes to the United States Congress these days. As we discussed this last night, I said this infrastructure bill, it was probably going to move slowly over the next week or so. There was a procedural vote that needed to take place late last night, and then it would probably take another week to get the final vote and debate happening. And then, boom, they surprised me and everyone else, and I think even themselves. Senator Mitt Romney was the first to announce this here in Utah today, but earlier today, what Senator Romney described as the bipartisan plan to fix the nation's crumbling roads and bridges passed the Senate. This is a $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. Infrastructure bill has been discussed and debated and hinted at for more than 10 years, and it finally happened. As I mentioned yesterday on the show, though, interesting thing here in Utah, our two representatives in the United States Senate, Senator Mike Lee and Senator Mitt Romney, are on complete opposite sides of this one. In fact, Senator Lee released a statement today saying that this bill was not the right direction. He felt that the federal government shouldn't be this involved in infrastructure spending in the first place, and was a vote against the bill. Senator Romney, on the other hand, a vote, of course, for the bill, but more so was actually a part of the negotiating body. About 10 senators, Republicans and Democrats alike, worked the details of this bill out. It heads to the House now, and Utah's 4 House representatives, Chris Stewart, Burgess Owens, Blake Moore, and, of course, I'm forgetting the other one. Who is that other one? I just never remember. I'm kidding. The 4 House representatives have not signaled their intention. It's John Curtis, by the way, if you don't. I make that joke because he's so quiet. John Curtis, you never hear anything about him, really. He kind of reminds me of former Congressman Rob Bishop, actually, who was described as a quiet workhorse. He just did stuff and didn't really make a lot of headlines. Curtis is kind of the same way, so I joke about forgetting that he's even there, and I think he probably would prefer that people forget he's there other than his constituents. Anyway, I digress. The 4 House representatives here in Utah have not signaled where they're at all on this one. It has to go back to the House now, and it has to pass. But it did pass the Senate today 69-30. It's called the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and this is a months-long process. This was a priority of President Biden when he came into office, And Congress was initially, of course, Democrats with enough of a majority in the House, but a bare majority, what is basically barely a working majority in the Senate. It was looking unlikely that this would pass. Republicans had promised to basically oppose any ideas coming from Biden, similar to what they did in the Obama years. And then things shifted. I don't know if this is Congress wanting to, after a few years of not really accomplishing much, if they are trying to send the signal that they're willing to actually do some things. That's something, ironically, Senator Mike Lee has harped on this, saying that one of the reasons so much is happening through executive order or executive fiat, as he likes to call it, is that Congress isn't doing anything. They're not doing their jobs, and they just did. Senator Mike Lee, though, of course, opposed. His opposition, he said in his statement, is primarily on the price tag, and he doesn't believe this will be paid for as the bill is promised to do. Senator Lee says that all this is going to do is increase inflation. That was his statement today. He made several attempts to amend the bill before voting against it, so he at least operated in good faith on this and wasn't just dragging his feet. But he said he still disputes proponents of the bill's claim that the plan is paid for, and said it's going to drive up inflation. He said, "I'm sorely disappointed that the Senate chose to pass this irresponsible and so-called infrastructure bill." He said the legislation expands federal power, increases spending without legitimate pay-fors, and, quote, exacerbates our already dangerous inflation. He said it will also facilitate tax increases in the future and increase regulations that he believes will hamper and harm our infrastructure in the end. Lee, in his statement, said, ultimately, the American people will be forced to pay an exorbitant price for this bill. Again, a $3.5 trillion spending bill that has officially passed the Senate. Lee, speaking of those amendments, introduced more than 100 amendments to a companion effort the Democrats are taking on here, which is a budget bill. This is where things get interesting again, and where Senator Lee and Senator Romney come back together. The budget bill, Democrats don't need Republicans for. There's a process called reconciliation in which the majorities of the House and the Senate can work together to pass a budget. But only items that affect the budget in one way or another can be considered. Of course, that's a lot of stuff that can be considered. So Democrats plan to go that one alone without Republicans. They've invited Republicans to weigh in, but they don't need their votes, and I doubt you're going to see many Republicans joining the process on that one. I wouldn't if I were in the minority party and the majority was doing that. But this is a common practice as well. Republicans do it when they're in the majority as well, use reconciliation to get things through that wouldn't pass in a straight-up vote in either chamber. So that process begins now. This was behind the scenes a promise Democratic leadership made to Democratic members of the House and the Senate, saying, look, this pared down, smaller infrastructure bill than what the president wanted, what many Democrats in the House at least wanted, will pass. And if it passes, we promise to begin a budget reconciliation process for a much larger package of spending. That, again, is where Senator Lee and Senator Romney, on opposite sides when it comes to the infrastructure bill that just passed the Senate, come back together, both in opposition to what at least is rumored to be making up this budget that Democrats will pass. Details on that are pretty slim, but usually when a party in the majority does this, it's basically an agenda wish list when they use reconciliation. So that process begins now. Again, members of Utah's Congress, congressional representatives in the House have not signaled where they're at on the infrastructure spending bill. But today, Senator Romney, a yes vote, Senator Lee, a no, and the vote in the end, 69-30, the bill passes the United States Senate and heads to the House for additional debate next week. They're in a rush to do this because they can't go home for their August break until it's done. We'll see where it goes from here. More of KVN News for the people, followed by, again, Direct Link with Governor Spencer Cox tonight at 6 o'clock here on KVNU. One more time, the number for tonight's Direct Link event. If you'd like to get a question in, don't use our studio line between 6 and 7 p.m. This is a statewide event coordinated through all of us here at KVNU, other stations throughout the state, and the Utah Broadcasters Association heading this up. So 6 to 7 p.m. tonight to get a question in for Governor Cox, you would want to dial 855-399-6900. 6800. And again, that's coming up at about 6:05 tonight here on KVNU. The direct link with Utah Governor Spencer Cox. Call-in number 855-399-6800. More of KVNU's For the People right after this.
Welcome to Everyone's Metal Store, home to tons of metal products for the DIYer or experienced pros, with a sales staff ready to assist with any type of metal question. Palmer's Metal Mart in Logan is your metal store, no matter the size of your project. With one of the state's best selections of metal products under one roof, you will love the price and selection at Metal Mart. For almost 30 years, for projects big or small, customers have found their home for metal products and extraordinary service to be at Metal Mart. No matter your knowledge of metal products, Metal Mart is here to serve. Give us a call or come into our store in Logan and see why we're everyone's metal store. If you need metal roofing, tubing or pipe, sheet metal, angle iron, purlins or rebar, call Palmer's Metal Mart today. When it comes to metal, just remember Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store. It's that simple. Visit us online at palmersmetalmart.com or in Logan, just east of the airport. Steel, service, and savings. See you soon.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. It's finally summertime, but if you struggle with CPAP, you might not be getting the sleep you need to get outside and enjoy your favorite summer activities. Fortunately, there's a treatment that will give you the sleep you dream of called Inspire. It works inside your body with just the click of a remote. Learn more at InspireSleep.com. Inspire Sleep Apnea Innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Ah, that's better. Trade in the stresses of building a new home for relaxation. Visionary Homes' priority is giving you a stress-free building experience. Named the best home builder in northern Utah, Visionary Homes' team will guide you seamlessly through the home building process. Call today, 435-228-4702, or visit visionaryhomes.com to learn more about upcoming communities in Nibley, Logan, and Smithfield. Visionary Homes, built for living, built for you.
The Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council present the story of Tom and Levi.
Tom is the smartest man I know. He's been a professor at 2 major universities, been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, he told me that he was having problems in his classes. I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. And he was telling them that he was doing it as a favor to them, but I think in reality he just wanted to get out of there. I was really starting to worry because I saw something was wrong.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me, and my love for him was just immense.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
It's a time of tremendous uncertainty for everyone, but some things haven't changed. Stomach cancer is still a leading cause of cancer death worldwide. More than 1 million people will be diagnosed this year alone, and it's vital to know your risks and learn ways to prevent it. It's also critical for cancer patients to protect themselves from all viruses. No Stomach for Cancer encourages you to listen to medical experts to understand your risks. Find out more about COVID-19 at cancer.gov and learn more about your risks for stomach cancer at nostomachforcancer.org.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up, how you can be a part of some UDOT planning, seeking public comment on active transportation. UDOT wants to hear from people all around the state, and we want to make sure that Cache Valley's voice is the loudest voice in all of this, because it should be, honestly. We don't want to drown any other parts of the state out, but we want to make sure that we are heard, and that won't happen unless Cache Valley residents take part in this public comment session that UDOT is hosting up until August 28th. We'll speak with the UDOT planner, Heidi Goodart, on the other side of the news about how you can be a part of this, why they're doing it, why it's important, and more. That's coming up in just a bit. Before we get to that, an interesting report out today. This comes out once a year, and it is called the Wedding Report. This is, a quick explanation of who these people are. This is a comprehensive wedding market report provided by a marketing firm based in Tucson, Arizona. And this marketing firm's goal is to basically advise businesses within the wedding industry, which is a big, broad set of businesses at this point. But they do this annual survey, and we've talked about it here on the show before because it gets a lot of attention. The survey is done in conjunction with researchers at Bowling Green State University, and it's done, with credible scientific methods, like most university surveys are done. It's also done over a really long period of time, and thousands of respondents are contacted. In fact, in this most recent report, more than 2,200 were surveyed. And these are consumers, wedding-related businesses. There were 283 of those that were surveyed. And they put this report out. And, of course, in 2020, the report basically said, in short, weddings have been canceled for the year. Check with us in 2021. Most people said that if they had a wedding planned in 2020, they were holding off until 2021. That trend's holding up a little bit here in 2021. And if you see, some of the numbers in states like Utah and Florida and South Dakota, you can see why in those areas, at least, people are still maybe holding off on large gatherings. We're having a bit of a problem here in Utah that has people concerned as far as kids returning to school in a couple of weeks or in a week in some cases, considering some of the rapid growth of and spread of the Delta variant of COVID-19. So wedding people planning weddings, wedding planning businesses are still kind of hesitant on that. But what are the trends showing us overall? Well, the Wedding Report survey results, again, this was about 2,200 consumers, about 300 wedding-related businesses surveyed in this. And, well, here are some things that they found. They found that a fifth of 2021 weddings, 75% of 2020 weddings were rescheduled. Only a fifth of 2021 weddings have been rescheduled to 2022. But in their survey of businesses, photographers, caterers, venues, and others, they report that they're seeing quite a surge, people catching up, basically, after pausing a planned wedding for 2020 and things like that. This led to, sadly, $25 billion in estimated losses for wedding-related businesses. So the surge is welcome. The problem is the data, which is in 9 states, one of them is Utah, by the way, where the survey was conducted. The data suggests some trends that have wedding-related business owners concerned. The trend is a decline in weddings after a surge when we catch up from all the weddings canceled in 2020, that things are going to settle back into a trend that has been going on for a couple of years, which is a decline. Now, the Wedding Report authors are clear to point out that a decline in wedding-related business activity does not necessarily equate to a decline in weddings. Many people go it their own way. They don't hire a caterer or things like that, and that's pretty common here in Utah. But the trend within these businesses and the data they collect is a downward trend. Even more concerning, researchers compared divorce patterns going back to 2018 and estimated how many marriages and divorces maybe were expected at the time versus how many happened in those pre-pandemic years. The question was, did 2020 change anything? Well, the 2020 data, March, April, and May of 2020, showed fewer divorces, and then things skyrocketed. Throughout 2020 and so far holding up into 2021, divorces are up 21% in 14 states. Arizona held steady. Utah did not. Divorce is actually up in Utah. And Missouri and New Hampshire, 2 of the worst. I don't know why. But some trends spotted in this data that suggest that 2020 really kind of ramped things up as far as divorces go here in Utah and throughout at least 13 other states, with, again, Missouri and New Hampshire being hit the hardest by that. So the overall trends, again, the number of weddings, at least going through wedding businesses, trending down, although we're in the midst of a surge right now due to weddings postponed from 2020. Trending down afterwards is the prediction on this. And divorce rates up more than 20% on average throughout the country. Interesting stuff. Check it out. I've linked to the Deseret News story on the Wedding Report published today on our Facebook page. And we'll be back with more after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:32. The news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. With 634 new coronavirus cases on Tuesday, the Utah Department of Health reported a fifth straight day of fewer than 1,000 new cases. There have been 441,131 positive cases in Utah the last 16 months. The COVID death toll reached 2,511, including 8 new coronavirus fatalities since Monday. There have been 118 coronavirus deaths in northern Utah. Totals from the Bear River Health Department indicate 35 new COVID cases were detected in Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties. The district's total case count grew to 23,558. The district's most heavily affected age groups include the age group of 26 to 45 with 7,478 cases and the 18 to 25 age group with 6,102 cases. The sweet sounds of symphony will be heard in the mountain air tonight as the Utah Symphony will perform a free concert at the American West Heritage Center in Wellsville. On KVNU's For the People program on Monday, Administrative Assistant Sarah Gunnell said the concert has sold out, but don't let that stop you. She says they have a lot of space. So if you don't have a ticket, don't be discouraged to go ahead and come. The concert features violinist Aubrey Oliverson, a 22-year-old Utah native with an international solo career. Also, they will honor the 125th anniversary of Utah, the Beehive State, with the flight of the Bumblebee. And Star Wars fans won't be disappointed.
They'll be playing the Star Wars theme, and so I do think they're trying to be all-inclusive for all genres, and I'm just really excited to see the community come out and, like I said, be educated and enjoy an evening, in nature at the base of the mountains with these beautiful views. And then, as the concert goes on, it'll turn into a starlight performance.
For more information, visit awhc.org/concerts. And the Utah Department of Health said that 114 positive mosquito pools for West Nile virus have been found throughout the state this year. No human cases have been reported as of yet. However, UDOH said the mosquitoes are very active, and it's always a good idea to avoid bites when you can. Hannah Rettler, UDOH epidemiologist, explained that despite the number of human cases decreasing in recent years, since 2009, Utah usually averages 12 human cases of West Nile each year. Rettler said there were 21 human cases in 2019, with 2 reported in 2020. KVNU weather mostly clear tonight. Areas of smoke this evening, then patchy smoke after midnight, low around 50. Patchy morning smoke on Wednesday, otherwise sunny around 90 degrees for the high. Right now it's 87. KVNU weather brought to you by Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering. They will stabilize, lift, and eliminate any further settling by using Magnum Piering products to save you big money down the road. The foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated. For more details on these and other stories, visit cachevalleydaily.com.
Want to improve the look and comfort of your home? See all the possibilities at U&I Furniture. Update your mattress and sleep better tonight on a Therapeutic Queen Comfort Top mattress for $4.99. U&I is also a full-line Maloof dealer. Add a Maloof adjustable base, 4 style choices there. In U&I's dining room section, lots of different brands with something always new to see. One popular set with a table and 4 chairs, $649. And for the family or living room, all kinds of fun new sofa loves and sectionals. If it's in stock or it's in the showroom, it's ready to take home. There's always a better buy at U&I Furniture downtown Logan.
Legacy House of Logan has been awarded silver in the Best of Northern Utah contest. We want to thank you for your support and allowing us to care for your loved ones. From our restaurant-style meals to regular wellness checks, Legacy House of Logan offers different levels of care so residents get the right amount of assistance they need. Come see how we can care for your loved one in our warm, caring, and vibrant community on 1400 North in Logan and online at legacylogan.com. Legacy House of Logan, your life just a little easier.
Hi, Cache County. I'm Maggie Parker.
And I'm Roni Parker.
And we're members of the Cache County 4-H and FFA Junior Livestock Program.
We'd like to invite you to come to the Junior Livestock Auction at the Cache County Fair Saturday, August 14th. Buyer registrations start at 8:30 in the morning with the auction at 9.
Me and all of our friends in the Junior Livestock Program have been working hard all summer to take care of and raise our animals.
Come support all the 4-H and FFA kids and fill your freezers at the same time.
Support the Cache County 4-H and FFA Junior Livestock Auction Saturday, August 14th.
Coming up on the next edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, what's going to happen with this infrastructure deal plus the budget of $3.5 trillion? Our friend, American Majority founder Ned Ryan will be with us to discuss. Plus, Clay.
Well, I'm going to go to the school board, Buck. What happens with the mask mandate? We will discuss that and more, plus the continuing fallout of Andrew Cuomo. All that more. It'll be the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show Wednesday. Come hang with us.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
We are there in your community. Small business owners, mechanics, police officers, homemakers. And we are there serving our nation in the Air Force Reserve. When medical emergencies arise, we meet the challenge. In cybersecurity, protecting and defending in cyberspace. When natural disasters happen, we are there in space. As a strong part of the nation's defense, we are there in the community and we are there for our nation. We share a vision to make a difference, united and focused, taking pride in being there in service of our country. We are Reserve Citizen Airmen, and we are there with over 180 different jobs to serve your country. Air Force Reserve.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Again, this hour of radio not live. Taking a look back on some of our biggest interviews over the last month in order to free up some time here in the studio and behind the scenes, the technical side of radio, which, by the way, would impress you guys. Most people, I think, when they think radio still these days, especially talk radio, they think tubes and wooden boxes. It's all servers and software now. But we have an opportunity once every other month to be a part of something called Direct Link with Utah Governor Spencer Cox. This was something the Utah Broadcast Association put together, which I have to say was an idea that came from the success of our district-wide every other month events with Congressman Blake Moore. Congressman Moore, just elected and serving his first term right now, reached out to us at the first of this year and said he'd like to do something like this. Was it possible? We reached out to our friends at KVEL and Vernal and others, and yes, found out that there were several stations here in the district that were willing to simultaneously broadcast a town hall with Blake Moore, which he'd do in our studio every other month. That's coming up in September. He's doing actually in-person town halls this month once Congress finally takes their break. And scheduled for that, I've posted on our Facebook page the planned nights for those events, by the way. He'll be back with us for a radio town hall in September, late September, maybe early October. But this worked so well, and it was so fun for everyone to get questions. We were taking questions from Vernal as we did the town hall here in our studio. It was really great, and vice versa. People in Vernal hearing questions from Cache Valley and other parts of the district, Box Elder County. This idea turned into something the Utah Broadcast Association took and ran with themselves for a statewide rural Utah-focused event. Every other month, Utah Governor Spencer Cox sits down for this Direct Link event. And it's happening tonight. You can hear it throughout the state of Utah on various stations. But here in northern Utah, of course, you'd want to stay tuned to KVNU this evening. But a catch, to dial in and ask a question of the governor during the Direct Link event tonight, which starts at 6 o'clock right after our show, do not use our studio line. To dial in and ask a question of Governor Cox during the Direct Link event, 6 to 7 p.m. tonight here on KVNU, you would dial 855-399-6800. One more time, for Direct Link with Utah Governor Spencer Cox tonight, 6 to 7 p.m. here on KVNU. The dial-in number for that 1 hour alone will be 855-399-6800. 6800. And you're going to hear questions from all around the state. It's a really, really interesting hour of radio. Had the opportunity to moderate it myself when our turn, quote unquote, came up last in June. This rotates around the state as far as hosting and location goes, but broadcast statewide each time it happens. So we're glad to be bringing that to you tonight. And one more time, the phone number, instead of our studio line this evening from 6 to 7 p.m. only, you would dial 855-399-6800. We had a chance recently to speak with our good friends at UDOT involving something that they just launched, which is going to have some huge ramifications when it comes especially to Cache Valley. UDOT, of course, has been in the business of roads and bridges and highways and freeways and all of that stuff for a long time. And oftentimes when they do public comment periods or seek public feedback for a lengthy period of time, online and off, they're focused on where would you like another lane, where should there be a stoplight, etc. That's important stuff. But for the first time ever, UDOT is undertaking public feedback request for something called active transportation. UDOT is actually wanting to know from all of you here in Cache Valley and throughout northern Utah, wherever you're listening from right now, how you get around when you're not in a car. Do you occasionally go out on a bike on the weekends? Do you walk through a downtown? Do you like the idea of tunnels going under highways, or would you rather have it be a pedestrian bridge? When you do go out, how long are you out? What do you do? How many miles might you travel? Things like that. UDOT is trying to understand active transportation, how people are getting around when they're not sitting in a vehicle. And we had a chance to speak with one of the planners at UDOT, Heidi Goodart, about that exactly, with the first obvious question for everyone: how are we defining active transportation? What is it?
So I'll break it down. It's basically the act of using your body to get from point A to point B. So that includes walking, using a wheelchair, riding a scooter, riding a bicycle. It even includes like e-bikes, e-scooters, rollerblades, roller skates, that kind of stuff. And, it may seem like those are kind of like recreational things or kind of, things that you do for fun. But they're actually really critical parts to our transportation system. And, the original mode of, transportation was walking. Before we had horses and automobiles and bicycles, we had walking. And so it's still really a critical part of our system. It helps improve physical activity and health and gives people of all ages and abilities options to get around in their communities and in their neighborhoods. And so at UDOT, we're just wanting to understand how we can better provide for people that need to bike and walk, and what we can be doing along our system to help improve those conditions, whether that's putting in bike lanes, building trails, considering crossings, bridges, under tunnels, all that kind of stuff. And so, we're really excited to kind of have this planning process kind of in advance of our long-range plan to really understand what the public wants.
Goodart said that not only is this an opportunity for UDOT to learn what people's preferences are, but it's also helping them to understand the future of transportation, how it's changing. Are we spending less time in cars? And if so, the answer is yes, by the way. If so, where are we going otherwise? When are we using our feet to pedal or walk? When are we getting on public transit?
There's a bunch of quality of life elements to how we get around, right? Like if your only option to get anywhere was a car, we wouldn't have the opportunity to fly. You wouldn't walk to your neighbor's house or your friend's house or, to libraries or church even, right?
Sure.
But the instant that we start having, kind of this more well-rounded approach to give people options in how they live their lives and how they can kind of easily go from walking to riding in a car to getting on an airplane or, hopping on their bike to get to school, suddenly we have kind of more robust options within our communities, right? And I think that kind of helps elevate quality of life and life quality. You think about kids that, they're too young to drive, or like the elderly, they're, kind of aging out of driving and, don't have like the reflexes or the kind of rapid thought process that sometimes is required with driving. And so, by having access to transit, by having bike lanes and trails and sidewalk infrastructure, we can more kind of appropriately uplift every member of our community. So.
It's amazing to think of where this all could go, and maybe to contextualize this a bit for listeners. I mentioned Main Street Logan here in Cache Valley. Logan City's Main Street is a UDOT road, meaning UDOT manages that road and plans for the future when it comes to Main Street. But knowing how many people, for example, maybe walk to downtown Logan or bike to downtown Logan for a night out on a weekend could influence future decisions UDOT might make involving Main Street and the cars, right? They're interconnected.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the lack of a crossing or how long it takes for you to cross the road. These are all kind of considerations that, we're trying to balance at UDOT. And, we actually have a really exciting project that was actually the highest prioritized one in the state on the Logan River on Main Street under US 89. We're going to be helping build a tunnel to help facilitate people crossing Logan Main Street, right? It's a really big road. Sometimes it might be daunting to try to,
Sure.
feel like, oh, I don't really feel safe jaywalking in this location, or, it's so far away to the next signal. And so this is a really awesome project that UDOT's doing in coordination with the city. And so it'll be really cool to see it kind of come to life.
On state roads, this will also influence county and city planning independent of UDOT planning. This is all interconnected, so an important opportunity for every single one of you out there listening to play a part in this and submit some public feedback, some input during this public comment period. The Active Transportation Plan public comment period has begun and goes until August 28th. So you've got a window of time to think about this, but less time than you probably think. If you're like me, that deadline will come up fast. And Heidi, there are a couple of different ways people can offer their feedback, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So primarily, we have a project website. You can visit that at publicinput.com/UDOT planning. And so at that website, you can quickly respond to a survey. You can pin locations on a map. You can leave comments. We've really optimized the website for mobile, so it can be very easy to just pop this up on, the browser in your phone and kind of interact with it in that manner. If you're not tech savvy, don't worry, we have other options for you. You're more than welcome to email us at planning@utah.gov, or we have a project hotline where you can kind of just say what your comments are, your concerns, express, a desire or a maintenance need, perhaps oh, this bike lane needs more sweeping, there's always debris, or, whatever the issue is. And so you can call that hotline at 385-360-1900.
This is, again, an opportunity. This is a chance for literally all of us to offer some public comment to influence the long-term planning when it comes to UDOT, active transportation. And again, these decisions do influence a lot of other things here in Cache Valley and in every other county in the state as far as county and city planning as well. So an opportunity up until August 28th when this public comment period closes to submit some input, some ideas, your thoughts, if you'd like to see something changed or different. As Heidi mentioned, a lot of folks in our community here and a lot of places throughout the state unable to drive or choose not to drive. And so active transportation, a big part of their day. Imagine being able to influence decisions that might affect Main Street Logan or Highway 8991 or any of the state roads here in the valley by saying, this is how I get around. This is where I put my feet down on the cement for a little while, or my bike tires, whatever it might be. That's exactly what this is about. And Heidi, I appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. And I just had one last question for you. And maybe this is an unfair question, but where does all this go from here? Once the public comment period closes, what happens next? Or is that something that you're waiting to see how much comment you get?
No, that's a great question. We've already gotten about 1,200 people that have responded through various methods.
Wow.
To give public input so far, which is pretty amazing considering we've only been launching this effort for about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so this is a little bit of a precursor, if you will, like a prelude or the first step before UDOT jumps into our long-range plan. And this is a giant planning effort that happens every 4 years. And we anticipate that this initial public involvement will identify projects that need to be incorporated into the long-range plan. And it will also help us understand what type of planning resources we as a DOT might need to help provide to local governments to really understand some of these issues or comments that come up or plan facilities and iron out, the actual plan and the engineering and kind of the project implementation behind them. And so this is a little bit of a baby step, but we're super excited to see, what the public thinks about what we should be doing and how we should be building it.
You can submit your public feedback again by going to udot.gov. You'll see there ways you can submit public comment on active transportation planning here in Utah via the website, but also a phone number, as Heidi mentioned there. You can call and just simply leave a voicemail. They want to hear from as many people as possible, and of course we want to make sure Cache Valley's voice is the loudest in all of this. The public comment period goes until August 28th. And again, udot.gov, your best stop on there. I've also linked directly to some of this on our Facebook page if you'd like to find it there instead. Our guest again has been Heidi Goodart, a transportation planner at the Utah Department of Transportation. Heidi, appreciate your time. Listeners, appreciate you tuning in. And please, go leave some feedback. Help be a part of planning transportation in the future here in Cache Valley and throughout the state. At udot.gov, click on Active Transportation Public Comment Period, and you have until August 28th to share your thoughts on that. We'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after this.
All right, Taylor, you got your cowboy hat?
Check.
Horse?
Already saddled.
Horse trailer?
Of course.
What about your boots?
Still got my pink ones.
What about trucks, Taylor? I'm not seeing very many trucks on our lot at West Motor. I don't want to hear back-ordered, postponed, out-of-stock, microchip shortage, or any of that crap. I want to hear something positive.
I can do that. Hold on to your bootstraps, because it's time for the famous West Motor Rodeo Day sale.
It's no secret that inventory is limited, but the quickest and best way to get your new Ram truck is to have one built especially for you. Get the features you want, the equipment you need, and the right color without paying for anything that you don't want. We'll throw in some big discounts, and Ram will build that truck just the way you like it.
That's what we do around here. We find solutions.
Simply come into West Motor Company in Preston, and we'll get your new Ram truck ordered and send you home with a couple of our famous West Motor Rodeo jackets.
West Motor, how the West was won. WestMotorCompany.com.
We love being in Smithfield and making it easy for our friends and customers to do their banking. Hi, this is Danny Hansen, branch manager at Cache Valley Bank in Smithfield. If you don't bank with us, I invite you to discover what a great financial partner you'll find in Cache Valley Bank. I'm anxious to get to know you and invite you to stop by and say hello. Now celebrating our second year in Smithfield, located on the corner of Center and Main, Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
This is Governor Spencer Cox. Right now, we're facing our state's worst drought on record. Utah, now's the time to unite in our effort to water less. So please visit slowtheflow.org to learn ways that you can take action.
All of us love sports, but not all sports are created equal. College sports have big budgets, dedicated alumni networks, and corporate sponsorships. Professional sports have even deeper pockets. Millionaire owners, lucrative TV and radio deals, and merchandise sales. High school sports have you. Everyone agrees high school sports give us plenty of reasons to cheer. And now's a great time for us to give back. Supporting your hometown high school won't cost you much, but it will go a long way to ensuring the games we love the most are here to stay. Utah high school sports. They're good for our kids, good for our community, and best of all, they're good for you.
This message presented by the Utah High School Activities Association and the Utah Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
That is our time for today. Tomorrow on the show, Back to School, how USU is helping out a nonprofit by donating some space, a nonprofit that does some very unique things with art and those with disabilities. We'll also be talking this week with former Congressman Bishop about redistricting and more. And, of course, coming up next here, Direct Link with Governor Spencer J. Cox. Another note on this, for the next hour of radio, 6 to 7 p.m. with Governor Cox here on our airwaves in an open format. Calls are welcome and encouraged from all around the state. You wouldn't want to dial our studio line for the next hour of radio to be a part of Direct Link with Governor Spencer Cox coming up at 6:05 here on KVNU. You would dial 855-399-6800. One more time, and up next, Direct Link with Utah Governor Spencer Cox. To get your calls in, dial 855-399-6800. Stay tuned. It's coming up right after this here on KVNU Logan.
News and talk around the clock.
I listen to you all the time.
News Talk, KVNU Logan, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.